So today I am so excited. You hear me talk about Shakeology all the time. You know that I started drinking Shakeology in February 2013, and it's completely changed my life. It's changed my health. It's changed the way I look at food. It's changed the way I look at our FDA, the way I look at other shakes and other supplements and the ingredient list on packages. It's completely changed everything for me. And instead of listening to me talk about it all the time, today I wanted to bring you an interview that was done with Darin Olien, the creator, the co-creator and formulator of Shakeology. I want you to hear from him. I want you to hear his words and learn more from him. So here we go. Enjoy. Is Shakeology a protein shake?
It's interesting because so many people say it's a protein shake, and why are we even saying it's a protein shake? And why is everyone even talking about protein? Because it's like protein's one macronutrient. It's kind of insane that we are having these conversations that protein's the key to all health in some weird sort of way. So Shakeology was created from one question when this whole thing went down with meeting Isabel and meeting Carl, and Carl was like, "I want to affect the lives of millions of people," and I believed him. And so when we signed the deal, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't think that was going to happen," because I was ready to, work on my own stuff and put my own formulas out there. And so when he asked, I want to, he has a story of not getting nutrients in his body from vegetables. Um, I asked myself one question: what do people require right now? What do they require in this day and age, in this culture, in our culture, in America, that would be the best delivery system for an insane amount of nutrient dense foods and some of the greatest foods from around the world? How amazing would that be? So not only is it not a protein shake, it is literally a delivery system for some of the most ancient used, uh, longest used epidemiologically of several cultures around the world, and probably studied, but unconventionally studied more than any uh, plants that have ever been that we've ever known about. So when if I'm going to say this quickly, it's an alchemical blend, and that is a massively different discussion. And I'll describe what alchemical is. It's a massively different discussion than just adding in a protein, adding in a macronutrient into your daily routine, right? So this is not only protein, but it's the enzymes, the digestive enzymes, it's prebiotics, probiotics, all those things that we say. But it's also hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plant compounds that are coming in from each one of these ingredients. So when I talk of alchemy is when you have, let's say, for simplicity, we'll have one ingredient, we'll have another ingredient. And a good example, because I just read this research, which is awesome. Very simple. Turmeric, we've all heard of turmeric, ancient Ayurvedic herb spice they use. It's actually medicine first, and people think it's more of a spice, but it's actually Ayurveda, which has used it for over 10,000 years. They figured out way before a lab coat that when you add a pepper, simple pepper, to turmeric, the beneficial results in the body biologically increase by over 10 to 20 times. So it's almost like the pepper adds an ability to unlock and deliver more capability of that which was in the turmeric to to begin with. So that's called alchemy. When you combine, in this case, plants together, it exponentially creates those plants as being better than when left alone. Okay? So Shakeology is greater than the sum of its parts. Shakeology in itself is an alchemical delivery system of these nutrient dense foods, and it's not a dissected thing that you find on the back of your nutrition label. That's what it isn't. That's the thing that's linear, that tells your brain and informs you what's in there, but it's not telling you the whole picture, right? So do you guys understand? Does that make sense? Yes? Nods, waves, hellos. Cool. So I hope that helps. And there might be some nuggets. You know what? In fact, I had a thing the other day, and I had an interview the other day, and it just popped to me. Let me leave you with this, and if you want to record this or write it down, because someone asked a very similar question. And if I were to give one long sentence to what the difference of Shakeology is, I said this: a supplement that contains some of the greatest nutrient dense foods in the world, carefully formulated to give your body life enhancing potential for a healthier mind, body, and stronger performing life. That's what Shakeology is in a nutshell. Okay?
How is the quality of Shakeology different?
Great question. And which is really why, it's a lot of what I just said. It's a lot of the quality assurance, and it's a tricky thing because I think the best thing you can say is, does your company have their own teams going to the places of origin? Does your company test everything that comes in, every batch? Does it take a fingerprint and a blueprint of every ingredient? Do you know that? Do you know what your company's doing for the quality assurance of what is there? Do you know that there's a lot of hidden ingredients and flavoring agents that get slid in there? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to talk about it. And the best thing is, like, listen, I've always been curious about superfoods. I've always been curious about food in my adult life. I was a normal kid growing up, but once I started to get the effect of the power of superfoods, I then was forever changed. So now you guys are that as well. I was 13 doing my first cleanse, and this was a kid in Middle America, right? I was a premature kid at 3.5 pounds. I had a lot of issues growing up. I wasn't even. I was 50-50 chance of even surviving. I had underdeveloped lungs. I had a resting heart rate of 120 beats per minute. I had medications that I just quit when I was 10, didn't tell my mom, and she was a nurse. I say that because when I started to get the reality that food and just spontaneously doing a grapefruit cleanse at 13, I realized, oh, I'm not a victim to what my body is. This is not set. That the DNA is absolutely listening and reacting to our environment in every moment, and it's not set. And it's up to us to either shut down those genetic potentials for disease or even optimal performance, or we shut those doors or we open those doors, and that is based on what we're doing every day. That's why we say it's not even a marketing thing. It might be a marketing thing a little bit for Carl, but it's actually true that getting these foods, these nutrient dense foods every day added up over a long period of time creates magnificent results. That's another reason why this isn't a one hit wonder. This is a potentiator. Shakeology is a potentiator for great health. When I say potentiator, if you're, you know, drinking or not taking care of yourself and not sleeping and not drinking water and not eating fresh, yummy whole foods, and then you're just drinking Shakeology and expect everything to go away, it's insane. It's insane. It will help, but it's not. It's like showing up to a forest fire with a squirt gun, you know? So you guys are in an amazing position because for me, I can't run around and just sell Shakeology and just talk about it because to talk about it is the genesis of why it was created. It was created so that health, the ability for your body, right? It is, if you lead with health first, you can't lose. When I created Shakeology, it was from health first. What does that body need? It needs the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrient dense. If I have an opportunity for someone to drink the shake, it's got to be packed full of nutrition because they may not have much at all. Okay, and it's got to taste good. Unfortunately, it does, and it took me over a year just working on the taste alone. Okay, so there's a lot of care that went into, and it would have probably taken 2 weeks of flavoring if we would have allowed what flavor companies really put into flavors, which is a lot of nasty um, chemicals and flow agents and propylene glycols and all of these other things. So um, that's another reason our vanilla story. I don't know if you guys remember that, but we were weeks away. Kind of going off on tangents here, but we were weeks away of sending out the vanilla when I had been having shouting matches with the flavor companies, telling them what our standards were, not what the FDA deems as natural. And when I realized that the FDA had different standards of natural, I realized that that's not my standard. It's not our standard. And so I thought we were getting what I told them to create when in fact they didn't. So we tested it, of course, and the vanilla flavor came back with unwanted uh, chemicals in there. So we had to scrap it and start all over and find someone else that could actually deliver on what we asked them to deliver on. So anyway, that's an example of the level at which this company, myself and a huge team of R&D now and quality assurance teams and this whole team that believes in this mission, and anyone who doesn't, they just don't fit in the organization, and that happens pretty quickly. So anyway, that's that tangent. um,
Are the ingredients in Shakeology coming from sustainable sources?
it's a good one. It's kind of old now, I guess. The Peru video that's out there kind of gives a glimpse of how we go about um, ethical, sustainable. I don't even like using those words. It's just the right thing to do. Every superfood is a window into a often third world situation where you're creating opportunity for people in that area that wouldn't normally have that opportunity. Um, Sasha Inchi is a great one. Sasha Inchi's grown in essentially the Amazon because it can grow in other places too, but essentially it grows very, very good in the Amazon itself. And and you can certify all these regions to grow in the way that you want them to and how they harvest. And these people often are for trying, if they're people living in the Amazon and they need a little money and they're not completely, it's very rare now that you have primitive people that don't have some trading and buying that goes on you know, from food or equipment or whatever. And this situation is great because the more people the more as the volumes go up, the more families we actually can take on, and those families then take on the production protocols for us. And and what happens is that instead of illegal logging that can absolutely and does come into the Amazon and say, hey, could you cut down 5 of these trees for $25 for us that are over 300 years old? And for them, it's about providing for their families, so they do it. So, and they don't know that global, these global issues are necessarily an issue by one person or one family at a time. But in fact, the more sashinshi we allow them to grow and pay them for, we help to contribute in a small way against the deforestation in that particular situation. So this can happen on many levels, um, in many areas around the world. Um, so, again, that is something near and dear to us. And, our vanilla, going back to the vanilla story, we had every opportunity to get pure vanilla from Madagascar, but we actually, one of the best places in the world to get it from, and we got it from there. But we actually chose the higher priced vanilla based on the the money that we would spend on the higher priced would go towards the sustainable infrastructure of those communities. So we actually were investing into that through the production price of that vanilla in Madagascar. So those are things that we absolutely, when given the opportunity, will do. And that again is a dream of mine for the 15 years I've been traveling around the world. And to have it be something where a company like Beachbody actually has that as the right thing to do is the reason why I am still here. Because, on all intents and purposes, my job was to create Shakeology and then leave. Um, the reason why I'm not, after, I started formulating in 2006 and it's 2015. How crazy is that? Um, the reason why I'm here is because of that integrity. All of these things go back to that first question as to why Shakeology over some lame protein drink. There's no way. There's very, very, very few people on the planet in terms of companies that can back up all of these different extensions of integrity that they're actually their product kind of sits in. Um, so I hope that kind of answers that question. I mean, it's you pick one ingredient and I can tell you a whole different story, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, when I was searching for moringa was one of my favorite superfoods because of its breadth of of nutrients. I mean, I was sitting in the middle of Africa, just, okay, so if we're going to go there, we have to talk to the chief elders, and we're there. So, okay, I'm going to bring a filter for their water because, in my experience, no one has clean water. So I show up, I sit down, we're in this village, and we say, "Hey, this is what we want to do. You have moringa here. We'd love to use it. We'd love to pay you. We'd love to do it transparently. We need your blessing." And they have no problem. Uh, if you show up eye to eye, and this is again the difference, it's all about relationships. When you show up and you're real with someone, they're real back to you. And anyway, and that story was amazing because I was surrounded by. I love being a minority. It's awesome. It's just like so humbling to be there and be surrounded by people who haven't even seen someone like you. Um, and and so I was sitting there. I said, so at the end, I was like, "Hey, so how is your water?" And well, we have some people who die, and we try to go to the stream and everything else. I said, what if I were to tell you I have a filter that you can put on your jerry cans, which are the cans that they carry around, and it can filter all your water and get rid of all the bacteria. And I can show you in about 2 minutes. Anyway, then side note, I ended up showing them this filter that I do. I'm on the board of Raincatcher, and I showed them, and in 5 minutes, I had them drinking clean water, and I drank it first. And it's things like that um, is probably easier to show in a video than to. But given this situation where you guys are hanging out in someone's amazing living room, I can share these kind of things. So
Will Shakeology ever go organic?
now, since I laid a little foundation of the indigenous side of it, you'll have a better understanding of how I can answer this. Um, Not all of the ingredients, but certainly a big chunk of them do come from regions like I've explained. Sometimes when there's a community that has gathered together and has had some years of maturity and has been doing things, sometimes it can work where they have a good organization and they have raised some money, and then they can certify huge amounts of land. But it's very costly. Um, sometimes sometimes you're in a situation where with a superfood or medicinal plant, and if you were to go organic, it changes nothing in terms of how they're actually growing it already, but it puts the burden of price directly on the farmer and the growers themselves. So it and then it also hits the bottom line of how much they have to charge in order to make up for the burden that's then hitting them to to be at the organic, because you have to bring in a certifier, and there's many certifying agents that can fly in from anywhere, and you have to pay for that. And then on top of it, the amount of work that they have to do to maintain that and continue to maintain that can be heavy. When I say heavy, when you say the dollar value that's different than ours is, it's like sometimes 10 to 1 in certain situations. So if we say, hey, to get certified, it's going to cost $5,000 a year, but that $5,000 is what they live on for the entire year, for example. Um, so that being said, some of our ingredients do not change in the quality at all. So if I were to say, would it be convenient that they're all organic and then we don't have to describe all of this and share this? Sure, but the reality is that it's not the case. That the assurance that you can have is that we're beyond organic, meaning that most of our ingredients are so well tested that they're beyond the level and standards that organic would be anyway. Um, so that's the. It'd be one thing if we had a Shakeology and it was 5 ingredients. We could probably easily go into the organic world, but seeing as though it's so full um, of ingredients that it makes it a little trickier. I'm not saying someday that couldn't happen, but I'm just saying the quality wouldn't change. Just that organic word would be on the package. So does that make sense to everyone? Again, we go back to the assurance that we're sitting with our team, and the integrity that we live in, like, and act in. And again, I can just humbly say, for me, not a Beachbody thing, that I just won't be here. I mean, I have plenty of things I can do. Um, Obviously, my book just came out, and it's got me with. I never realized there was a whole other job to kind of, be there for a book. But
What about the lead that was found in the Greenberry Shakeology?
really good one actually, and it was very disturbing how that happened, because the greenberry that was tested, we already found out that the greenberry was high in lead, right? It was beyond the level of what it should have been. We discontinued that greenberry, right? Some got out, we discontinued it, and we already had reformulated it. So I assume you're talking about when Dr. Oz did his thing, in consumer labs. So Dr. Oz put out that, and they didn't do their homework, and that product that they were talking about wasn't even on the market anymore. We had already found it, we had already changed it, we had already reformulated, and we had already changed that ingredient supplier. So unfortunately, we just got some bad press, but in fact, it goes to our quality assurance that we already had, and we've since had an amazing relationship with consumer labs because we shared all of our data with them, and we said, "Hey, just so you know, this is what we did," and they were like, "Oh, we didn't know." Amazing. So they actually have our real numbers. We openly shared that with them. Unfortunately, Dr. Oz shared it, and it would be great to get a rebuttal on that. But whatever. It's kind of water under the bridge. So so yeah. So it really goes to, again, we have such an amazing team. We caught it. We changed it. Someone took an old bag, an old formula, and then did that. So it was a little little disturbing.
Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I have more videos on my YouTube channel under Coach Jamy, and you can find more at coachjamy.com. Take care. Bye.